Hi everyone, welcome to SaaS Labs and today's session. As already introduced, my name is Merve Soner. I'm one of the business leads on SaaS Factory team based in New York. And today we will be talking about the SaaS product planning and minimum viable service. Again, in the end, definitely let me know if you have any questions, or we will definitely have time for any discussions. So if you look at minimum viable product or service, or, you probably heard different versions of this word, from minimum lovable product to, again, MVP, MVS. So, and again, it's kind of defined in different ways by many people in the industry. So defines MVP as the minimum version of your product vision. Or in the book, The Lean Startup, Eric Rice defines it as the version of a new product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about their customers with the least effort. And another quote that I really like about this overall MVP or MVS approach is from LinkedIn co-founder, where he says, so if you are not really impressed by the first version of your product, you probably launch too late. So I think these three quotes probably gives an idea around the spirit of minimum viable product. And I'll mostly refer to it as minimum viable service in this presentation, because again, in a SaaS world, we are not just talking about the product itself, right? So we talk about providing a service to the customers. So there's definitely a minimum viable product perspective of it, but we believe that you should think through this service mindset and really think about the whole operations around it rather than just the product itself. So let's start. So we talk about what the MVP definition might be, and we usually see actually 4 key activities to define a successful MVS. And this definitely starts with defining the target early adopters, then the functionality scope, the product functionality, building the operational experience, and also building the feedback experience. So let's look at each area in details and what they really mean to define the MVS approach. So when you start with early adopters, again, I think in the last couple of weeks we've been talking about journey mapping, understanding your personas, your customer journeys, and this really applies anywhere from your business case development to go to market, and also in this whole MVP MVS process. So the first step is, again, just defining the early adopters, and the idea here is that usually early adopters could be a subset of your total addressable market. So with your MVP, you don't necessarily need to target each and every customer you plan to target maybe in the future. So to start with, I think a good exercise is to really define the user personas and the roles that you would like to target with this MVP first version of your product. And then you should come up with a list of maybe a list of organizations or list of personas you would like to target. And then this list should really help you to get the feedback that you need for your product and also understand the user experience. So at the end of this exercise, you should really think through, do I have a good set of early adopters to target who could first easy to reach, who would be willing to test this product, but who would also give us an idea about what our future product may look like. After this step, or even before the next step, so there are different tools and templates that you can use. So the working backwards process that was shared earlier is one example. PR FAQ process is another example, and probably most of you are familiar with this business model canvas, which is also another tool for you to really define those customers, the segments you would like to target. So after defining those early adopters, the next step is really defining the functionality. again, the MVP does not need to be your end product, because you will probably want to go to market as early as possible to really find your product market fit. So definitely do not try to put all the functionality in the MVP process, because then you first delay your MVP launch, and then maybe you are just developing some features and functionality that users will never use. So for your MVS, definitely start with defining the product functionality that you will need for this offering, and then look at some of the functionality that differentiates your product. So there might be some functionality that you need to implement for just to make sure that the product is up and running, but definitely look at what features and functionality might give you a competitive advantage, but also help your customers to get value out of your product. And in the end, you should really look back and ask yourselves, okay, is this product with all this functionality, is it enough for us to really go to market and sell? So are the customers happy with what we provide, and would they be willing to use this product? And here it really becomes to the functionality prioritization, feature functionality prioritization. And again, there are different methods that you can apply. So in one resource, you can just categorize your features as killers, winners, and the functionality that you need to have for your operations, for your product to operate. And you can definitely look at, again, you should prioritize the functionality that differentiates your product from others. And another template that you can use is basically this feature value metrics, where you can categorize your features based on their impact and urgency. Or you could do this as like the value provided to the customer and maybe the time it will take to develop them. And depending on where that feature falls in this diagram, you could really define your roadmap, saying that, okay, these are the features we should definitely include, and these are the ones that we should exclude. And there are all other features in between that needs maybe a debate or like a feedback from others. So again, this is step 2. You define your early adopter audience. You define your functions, features for your MVP. The next step is really defining the operational experience. Again, just going back to that S in the MVS acronym, which is the service. So yes, you have your product and you have your features, but you should also define the elements that will help you to successfully operate this solution. And then it may even include some skills, some tools, some processes that you need to develop as an organization. So in order to keep this system up and running, what do we need to do? What are some tools that we can benefit from? And based on that exercise, then you can really consider in the end, okay, do we really have this experience internally to run run and operate this solution we are launching? And then how you can really get even better as you move forward with this operational experience. And the last step is definitely the feedback part. So again, MVS process is really just for you to understand the product market fit, understand your customer needs. So definitely think through building a feedback experience during this process. And this feedback experience, it could definitely be embedded to the product, so it could be automized, and that would probably help you to gather data more quickly in an automated way. But this could even be as simple as really just creating some surveys for your end users, or just sending them like short notification notes, like to ask their experience, their thoughts about the product and how to improve it. And at the end of this, or during this process, you should really think through what feedback you need from your customer. So, for example, if it is about a new feature that you are launching, maybe you would be focusing on that, or you could get overall customer satisfaction feedback around, how happy they are with your product, or all others. But definitely think through the feedback that you would like to get to build your product and to build your product roadmap. And in the end, again, just try to figure out how you can even advance this feedback experience in a way that customers can continuously provide feedback about their experience and also your product features. So basically, these are 4 main steps that organizations follow when they build a minimum viable service. And basically, the core of each process is really the cycle of learn, build, and measure. So during this process, you should always follow this approach. Okay, ask this question, learn from your customers, learn from your market, then start building. And then how you can really validate what you have learned with what you have built. So then that takes you to the measurement step. And the idea here is, again, just being continuously learning and building and measuring until you launch this first version. So in a sense, you should definitely look at MVS as an experiment that your organization kind of tries. So, and then you should definitely look at the risky assumptions you are testing with the MVS. Definitely focus on what value you provide, and is it really a unique value for your organization or for your product? And defining the metrics, basically, how will you measure the success? How will you know that you are successful with the product you built? And this usually starts with a quick exercise where you can build a hypothesis about your product and start testing it. So an example, or like the hypothesis statement should look like, okay, we are building this feature for this persona, and we want to achieve this outcome. And this is how we know we are successful. And this is, the way we will measure our success. And if you put this like whole idea of hypothesis statement into application, so there is a recent example, an example, and I'm sure you could find many others online. So here, what this is, so Zimi is again, just think through a digital portfolio that helps high school students to apply to colleges and universities. So the way they built their hypothesis is that, okay, our customer segment is high school students. And their problem is they need to find a way to really differentiate themselves in this like whole approval or college admissions process. And the solution we provide to them is a digital portfolio where they can highlight their extracurricular achievements and showcase their personality. And the way we will measure our success is number of users who are ready to, use and send their profile to the college applications. So this is really like a very simple exercise that you can go through with after you define or after you follow all that four steps. And again, if you just think through that whole cycle of learn, build, and measure. So the idea with MVP is really to follow an iterative approach. So the MVP that like the second picture here is more kind of I think it referred to the whole like waterfall approach where you build one by one and in the end you get your product. Whereas with MVP, it should be an iterative approach. So the first version of your product should be something that the users can try and test and use for their needs. So again, instead of building in this like the whole waterfall approach, the idea here is that, okay, just first build something that helps people to go from point A to point B. And this could be a skateboard in the beginning. So then your next version, as you see feedback, as you see interest in your product, then the next version of your product could be a bicycle. Still helps people to go from point A to point B, but in a more advanced way than a skateboard. So then again, it can go all through like a fully functioning car that you propose as you get that feedback from the market. So there are definitely a lot of research around the time to launch a product, and the one research from Forrester says on average ISV spend 14 months to develop their first MVS or MVP. But if we look at our engagement, SaaS factory engagements, specifically in the startup segment, we usually see a MVP launch time between 9 to 12 months. So it's usually shorter than what other organizations may see. So again, this definitely depends on where you are with your product launch and how fast you can go through all the processes that we shared. But again, the idea here is that going to market as early as possible so that you start getting feedback from your customers. And some organizations, again, do not really know what that point of MVP is. And again, just in that case, just remember if it looks like a fully shaped product, then it's probably too late to launch it as an MVP. So just really try to find the balance between, okay, is this a product that is attractive enough to acquire new customers or to convince existing customers to migrate, versus is it are we in a good time frame where we can still collect that feedback before we build or we spend more time on this specific product. So again, depending on where you are, this time could be different. I think one other thing probably to mention with the product launch is so as you delay your MVP, it actually also delays your the actual launch or your product in the future. So really try to use this as a stepping stone to where you would like to go with your product. And then let's say you went through all these processes, you followed all the 4 steps, and then you launch an MVP and MVS that your users, your beta customers could try. So it's also definitely very important to define what happens after that launch, because obviously you had some ideas, some feedback you wanted to gather, but definitely define them before you launch your product. So because again, you could get endless feedback probably from your customers, or you could test the product for a long time in the market, but you should really have some milestones saying that, okay, within 6 months, this is where we want to be. And it could be in terms of number of customers. It could be in terms of like maybe the quality of feedback you gather. But definitely define some milestones for the next 12 to 18 months. So this will also help you give a visibility to your organization internally, so that your teams are ready to support whatever that next step is. Because especially if you move from like an MVP to a more like an official product launch, there are a lot of things, like as we discussed during the go-to-market session or customer success session, there are a lot of things that your teams or your organization needs to be ready for. So definitely provide that visibility internally, but also externally if possible, because your customers should also know what is coming next as they test your MVP. So here again, being as transparent as possible, and of course things may change over the time, but it's really important to provide that transparency both internally and externally. And then definitely, in the beginning, you define your early adopters, but as you move to a more general availability, you would like to really kind of understand really if that early adopters successfully represented your target audience, and are there any additional functionality or additional processes that you need to implement to support that broader audience. And definitely consider if your organization is ready to support the scale that may come with that broader target audience. And then finally, definitely look at some dependencies. So are there any the programs or technology dependencies that your product may have that may impact your roadmap or even the milestones that you defined? So again, overall idea here is that when you just launching that MVS is definitely one big step for your organization, but definitely do not let it go after you launch it. Have some plans, milestones to follow, and also do not forget to measure the success, the value that you are seeing from the product. So with that, I'd like to move to a customer example that one of the partners that we work with at SaaS Factory, which is F5. And you might have heard their stories in the past, but I really like to approach their stories from this, like the MVS perspective, and how they really navigated through this journey. And their probably learnings from F5 applies to many other partners that we work with in this space. So again, before F5 started their journey, and again, this really goes back to 2018. So that's why I think it's important right now, 3 years after, or even almost 4 years after they started this process, we can go back and see what they did successfully. So before really the decision they made to move to SaaS, they were really focusing network operations users across, the large enterprises. So that was kind of their market. With the SaaS product that they decided to develop, they wanted to really target a new market. So that's definitely one of the benefits of SaaS, right? We discussed during go-to-market that SaaS can help you to target new customer segments, new markets, new audiences. So that's basically what F5 did. So instead of the NetOps market, they wanted to target DevOps market, and this helped them to really grow their addressable market. And also they wanted to expand their presence into the mid-market tier. So with SaaS, they were again able to target this new customer segment, this new audience. And they did this in a way that didn't really disrupt their existing operations. So they basically started small, targeting this new segment of customers. They also picked, again, F5, if you look at their product portfolio, they have many solutions, right? So the idea here is really, you don't need to do kind of a big bang type of SaaS move by moving everything to SaaS at once. So what they did is they really picked one portion, one use case out of their product portfolio, and really just focused on that use case to move to SaaS. And they wanted to use the learnings from that experience to really move all the other products to a SaaS business model. So by 2000 and like almost in a year, they were able to launch F5 DNS cloud services. So they, during this like 1 year time frame, they closely work with selected customers in the whole MVP process, and they really followed a phased rollout approach. So they started with a beta, which was more like a private kind of invites to the customers. So in beta process, usually organizations extend invitations to a selected number of customers to get their feedback. And then they usually go with a preview, which is again more publicly available than a beta launch, but still they don't really do a lot of noise in the market to reach to that broader audience. And then finally they launch the product to make it generally available to all of their target customers. And throughout this process, they started with net new customers in the mid-market space, but also they continue to working with their existing customer base and pick a few of them to test their product. And once they launched their DNS cloud services in March 2019, then the rest really came easier, because now they have the experience as an organization to build an MVP, to test that MVP and gather feedback. So almost in a year, they were able to launch 2 other products. And in this scenario, again, the first 2 launches are kind of the different parts of the product, and the one launch they did in March 2020 is their product that usually targets a broader audience. So basically, following this MVP approach and focusing on one single use case and focusing on a target audience, they built step by step, and then used all that learnings to launch other products in the market. And I think even after March 2020, they probably launched a few others in the SaaS business model using all this knowledge. So just to summarize what we have discussed, and just maybe a few key takeaways from this session. Again, I think it's really important to start small and follow an iterative approach. And again, this could be one use case within your product. This could be like a sub-segment of your target audience. Whatever that is, definitely start small and test the waters before you go even further. We've been talking about the service mindset, I think, all over throughout our SaaS lab sessions. So definitely when you define your MVP or your launch, definitely don't forget the S in the MVS piece, which is, again, the service. So it's not just enough to design and plan your product, but you should also think through the whole service you are providing to the customers and how you can really just build your operational excellence to serve your customers. The third part, again, I think the overall process really should follow the customer feedback, and definitely use this time to understand your products, understand your customers, what they might be looking at, and build all these feedback mechanisms that will help you to build your product, but also that may help you to understand your operational experience, as well as the customer success function. So again, whether you are using simple tools such as like online surveys or more advanced versions of surveys that you may embed into your products, definitely make this part of your MVP. And finally, again, SaaS is a world of measurements. So like whatever you do, metrics are very important. So similarly with MVS, definitely define your metrics, define your success metrics. And to begin with, you may not have a baseline, right? So you may define what you will look at, but you may not have a benchmark. And in that case, just start really measuring the key metrics that you put, and if you can do some benchmarking externally, that's great. If not, even just look at your baseline and see how you improved throughout the process. So with that, I'd like to pause here and then move to any questions or any ideas that you may have.